Hi family, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the family. My name is Liz, and in this tutorial we're going to make this pair of pants. I used the mesh stitch combined with double crochets in order to come up with this pair of pants, and I made it in size small, but I'll be giving instructions on how to recreate yours in any particular size. There are certain measurements that you're going to need before you start making your pants. Now this is just one of the legs and this is the second one. I'm just going to get my measuring tape and I'll illustrate to you the measurements that you're going to need. Now you can measure yourself, or you can use a pair of pants that fits you and measure it. The first measurement that you're going to need is the hip measurement, and for this one it goes up to 16 without stretching, and that is 32 when you multiply 16 by 2. Then when you stretch it out, it goes up to around 19 to 20, and that means this can fit somebody with a hip measurement of 32 up to around 40. But then for 40 it will be too tight, so if you don't want it too tight, don't stretch it out a lot. The other measurement that you're going to need is the fly measurements, and you're going to measure it from the waist up to the pattern of the legs. If you want your trouser high waist, then you're going to get around 13 to 14 on the fly. Then you're going to need to measure your thigh measurements. Sometimes the thigh measurement is not half of the hips, so you need to measure it, and this stretches up to 11, but when it's not too tight it goes up to 9. 9 multiplied by 2 is 18, 11 multiplied by 2 is 22, so that's the thigh measurement of between 18 to 22. Then the full length is from the waist all the way down to the heel, and this measurement of the length is done without stretching. And now for my pants, it's going up to 39. I had originally worked up to 38, but it seems to have stretched up to 39, and that is quite okay. We can work with an extra inch. I'm working with a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. Then you're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, stitch markers, and a measuring tape. Then I'll be working with these yarns. This will be my main color. I'm not even sure I'll use the blue, but this is going to be the main color. This yarn is Winter King. It's 100% acrylic, and it's a medium weight yarn, so you can use any medium weight yarn of your choice. It could be acrylic or cotton. We begin with a slip knot. Make 5 chains. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now pull up the hook, remove it from that loop and hold it, then insert the hook into the first loop or in the first chain, then insert it back into that last chain and continue chaining, and we're going to chain until we get to our hip measurements. I've done a total of 110 chains, and we're going to measure this to see the length that we're getting with that chain. So we just want to measure from one end to the other, and the chain is folded into 2. Without stretching it goes up to 16, and when we stretch it will go up to around 20. So 20 multiplied by 2 is 40, and 16 multiplied by 2 is 32. That means these pants can fit somebody with a hip measurement of between 32 and 40. For 32 it will be loose, for 40 it will be tight. So if you don't want it tight, then you're going to measure without stretching out too much. Now we need to complete the round, and we're going to slip stitch through this loop through the first chain like that. Then we're going to chain 3. The chain 3 will act as the first double crochet. You can do a chain 3 or chain 2, whatever works for you. If you feel like the chain 3 is too long, then work 2 chains instead, and that will act as our very first double crochet. Then we're going to move on to the next chain, yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, yarn over and pull up a loop to get 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops, and that will be our second double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into the chain that follows, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the remaining 2, and now we're going to place 1 double crochet into every chain all the way round, and that will complete our first row. So yarn over to the next chain, do a double crochet, and keep going till you've worked into all the chains. At the end of row 1, you should have the same number of stitches as the chains that you've done. Remember that the chain 3 is a double crochet. So now I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll keep going to the end. That's my last double crochet into that very last chain. To complete row 1, we're going to count 1, 2, and 3 chains, then slip stitch like that, and you're done with row 1. To begin row 2, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, then turn, and the 4 chains represent a double crochet plus a chain 1. So then we're going to yarn over, skip the next stitch, and work a double crochet into the stitch that follows, chain 1, yarn over, skip, a double crochet next, chain 1, skip, double crochet into the next stitch, chain, skip, and double crochet. So we are creating the mesh stitch for row 2, and we're going to chain and skip and work a double crochet all the way to the end of row 2. I'm at the end of row 2 and I should have 1 stitch remaining, but then I have 2. I seem to have added an extra stitch. The number of chains that you begin with should be a multiple of 2, that is a number that is divisible by 2, so that when you come to the end of row 2, you only have 1 stitch remaining. But then if you have 2, not to worry, you're just going to chain 1, skip both of the stitches, and count 3 chains, 1, 2, and 3, then slip stitch into the third like that. Chain 3, 2, and 3, and turn to begin row 3, and that's our first double crochet. So the next double crochet is going to be in the chain 1 space, double crochet right there, then double crochet on top of the previous double crochet, double crochet into the chain 1, double crochet into the double crochet, then into the chain 1, and next into the next double crochet. Then that's the pattern that we're going to repeat to the end of row 3. Just 1 double crochet into every stitch. Make sure you work both in the double crochet and in the chain 1 space. And the last stitch should be on this last chain 1, then slip stitch onto the chain 3 on top of the chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3, do the slip stitch, then chain 4, and turn to begin row 4. And now we're going to work row 4 the same way we worked row 2 with the mesh. So yarn over, skip the first stitch and the second, then work into the third with a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, then double crochet next, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip, double crochet, chain and skip, then double crochet. Now repeat to the end. At the end we should have 1 stitch remaining. Then we're going to chain 1, then count 3 chains, 1, 2 and 3, and slip stitch onto the third to complete row 4. Then chain 3 and turn. That's our first double crochet, and we're going to work row 5 the same as row 3. So this is the double crochet row where we place a double crochet into every stitch, beginning with the chain 1, then into the double crochet, into the chain 1, into the double crochet, and we repeat to the end. So now, as you can see, for row 4 we repeated row 2, for row 5 we are repeating row 3, for row 6 we're going to repeat row 2. So that means the even rows, which are row 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and so on, are the mesh stitches or the mesh row. Then row 3, 5, 7, or the odd rows are the double crochet rows. So you're going to alternate between a double crochet row and a mesh row, and you're going to work this until you get the fly measurements of your pair of pants. When you're measuring the fly measurements, you measure from your belly bottom up to the parting of your legs. So the fly measurement is the second measurement that you're going to need after the hip measurements. Now let me keep repeating my rows, and I'll be back once I get my fly measurements. Let me show you how to measure the fly so that you get a general idea. So this is your pair of pants. The fly is the measurement in between the legs, and it's measured while stretching. So from the top going down, you need to stretch out your work, and when I stretch this out, it gets me to around 4.5. I'm going to work until I get to 12 inches while stretching. So remember to stretch out your work. This is my work after I've gotten to my fly measurements, and I've done a total of 15 rows. So as you can see, I'm counting the rows and I'm getting to 15. And when you're measuring, let me show you how to measure. Without stretching, the fly measurement is at 9, but then we're going to give it a bit of a stretch to get us to 12 right there. So when I stretch it out, it's at 12 inches. And now we need to divide the skirt in order to get the pants, and we're going to do that from the middle part of our skirt. Get your hook back to that point where we've ended the last row, and we're going to chain 10. You can chain 10, 14, 16, depending on the size of your thigh measurement. So I'm first going to chain 10, then I'll confirm to see whether it's going to fit. Then you're going to hold your work like this, such that you're able to get the exact middle of your project You can count the stitches, but I'm not going to count them. I just align the work like this, and I always get the exact middle. So get that exact middle and mark it, and make sure that it's on a double crochet, like the double crochets on the mesh row. Make sure they are aligning with the point where you've marked. Now go back to the chain that you've made, and you're going to slip stitch onto that stitch that you've just made. So I'm just going to slip stitch without removing the hook, removing the stitch marker, because I might need to reduce or add some more chains. I've chained 10, so slip stitch, pull up a loop, and hold your work like this. Then you're going to get the measuring tape and measure that length to see whether it fits onto your thigh. So when I measure this, remember it's folded into 2. It goes up to 10. That is 20 when not stretched. But then when I stretch, let's see, when I stretch, I'll get to 11, to 12 actually, which is 24. And that is the thigh measurement that I was working with. So I'll go with that. If you've not gotten to your thigh measurements, you're just going to go back, remove the slip stitch, and then add some more chains. If you've gotten something that is bigger than what you wanted, then you're going to reduce the number of chains. So go back to that stitch, and we need to turn our work to the side where the stitches are really visible. Then from there we're going to chain 4 because we are on the mesh stitch. After chaining 4, we are working on the chain that we've created. Skip a stitch and work a double crochet, chain 1, yarn over, skip, and work into the next chain, chain 1, skip again, work into the chain that follows, chain 1, sorry, again we're going to skip and work onto the next chain, then chain 1. Right here you want to make sure that you're working on the double crochet. You're skipping and working a double crochet like that, then chain 1. Turn your work to the main part of your trousers, and you need to work onto the next double crochet. And yeah, right there, make sure that you're aligning that double crochet with the double crochet on the mesh row. So make sure they are aligned. Chain 1, skip, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet after skipping a stitch, chain 1, double crochet. And because you already know how to do this, I'll let you finish this row and I'll meet you at the end. I've come to the end of that row. I'm doing the last double crochet, chain 1, then slip stitch onto the chain 3. So I'll count 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Into the third chain, do a slip stitch, and we've completed that row. Chain 3 and turn to begin the next row. As usual, the chain 1 is our first double crochet, so we're going to do the second double crochet into the chain 1 gap, a double crochet onto the previous double crochet, a double crochet into the chain 1, double crochet on top of the double crochet, then into the chain 1, and we're going to repeat the solid double crochet row, like we're placing a double crochet into every stitch until we get to the end. Let me do that and meet you at the end of the row. I'm working towards the end of that row, and I'm just placing a double crochet into every stitch, as you can see. And because you already know how to work these rows, I think from here I can let you work till you get to the length of the pants that you want. So let's get to the end. That's the last double crochet. Then we're going to do a slip stitch onto the chain 3, and then we're going to chain 4 and then turn to begin the mesh row. We begin by skipping a stitch and working into the next one. So now just keep going and work till you get the full length of the pair of pants that you're working. I'll be back and I'll let you know the number of rows that I'll have done to get to that length. You're just going to work the two legs separately, and I'm at a length of, let's confirm the length, with the measuring tape. And remember, when you're measuring the full length, you do not stretch. So right here I'm at a length of 9 inches and I want to work until I get to 38 or 39. So now just keep going with the rows and let's meet once you're done. I'm done with the first leg and I've done a total of 54 rows from this point up to the bottom part, and therefore 54 rows plus the 15 that I had done on top, that will give me a total of 69 rows. And we can confirm the length. So measuring from the top to the bottom without stretching, let's see. So from this point all the way down, remember we're not stretching when you're measuring the length of the pants, and that gets me to 38 inches, which is the length of the pants that I was going for. And so we are done with that one leg. Make sure that you finish with a double crochet row, and then at the very end we're going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn, pull it through, fasten, then get the darning needle and weave in that end. So you just want to pass the needle through the stitches, making sure that you don't, the needle is not visible on the other side of the stitches, so that you have the end in between the stitches. So just go on until you're satisfied that it's well hidden, then pull it through. And that's what we're going to have at that point. We are done with that one leg, and so we're going to turn our work. I'll start on the other side. So turn your work like this. Make sure that your stitches are visible from the side where you're going to reconnect the yarn. So as you can see, these are my stitches, very visible. If they are visible on the other side, then you'll need to turn and begin from the inside, so that you work on the side where the stitches are very visible. So now I'm going to start from this point right here, and I'll work all the way around to this point, then through the stitches that are in the middle. Begin with a slip knot, and we're going to go into the stitch that is this stitch right here. Slip stitch, and we chain 4 because the previous row is a solid double crochet row. The next one is going to be the mesh row, so we're going to chain 4, 2, 3 and 4, yarn over, skip the next stitch, work into the one that follows, place a double crochet, chain 1, skip, double crochet next, chain 1, yarn over, skip this, then work a double crochet, chain 1, skip, double crochet, and keep going all the way around. I'll work till I get to this point, then I'll show you what to do next from there. Once I get to the chains in the middle, I'll just chain 1, then I'm going to yarn over, and as you can see, I'll work into this double crochet right here. Instead of skipping this stitch and working at the corner, I'll work into this stitch where the double crochet on the other row is. Chain 1, work into the next stitch where the double crochet is, chain 1, and over, work into that stitch where we have the other double crochet, chain 1, then we're going to have chain 1, then we chain 1, and we're going to skip this stitch and work on top of the chain 3, 1, 2 and 3 right there. And there we have the first row complete. So now we're going to chain 3 and turn, and then we work the double crochet row. Now from here everything is very simple. You're just going to repeat the rows, the double crochet row alternated by the mesh row. And I'm going to work a total of the 57 rows. Is it 57? 54 actually. I'll work for a total of 54 rows from here. So right now I'm in row 2. I'll keep going until I get to the 54 rows. I'm done with the second leg, and this is what we have. So I'm just showing you from the bottom coming up to the top, and I feel like my fly measurement is short and my pants are low waist, so I'm going to increase some rows on the upper part in order to make it a bit high waisted, not too high, but I want to increase the fly measurements some more. And I'm going to add 2 more rows at the top. Start with a slip knot, and you're going to get the exact middle at the back and reconnect the yarn. Make sure that that stitch aligns with the double crochet on the mesh row. So we do a slip stitch at that point, making sure that you're aligning, slip stitch, then chain 4. We are chaining 4 because we are doing the mesh row. Skip 1, double crochet into the next double crochet, chain 1, skip, double crochet next. So you already know how to do this. Now if your fly measurement is long enough, you don't need this part. You're just going to skip it and move on to the next part. I'm only increasing because I stretched out my fly too much and the pants were not fitting so well on the waistline. They were too low. So skip this part if you do not need to increase the fly measurements. Let me do the 2 rows and then come back. I'm finishing the second row, just placing the last few double crochets. That is the last one. Then I'll slip stitch onto the chain 3 right there, chain 1 and turn. Now for this last part, it's also not necessary as such. I'm going to work in between the stitches with a single crochet, in between the next 2 double crochets with a single crochet, in between the next 2 double crochets with a single crochet. So I'm just placing a single crochet in between the stitches on the top part of the pants. So you can do this, or you can completely skip the single crochet row if you don't feel like it. Let me go all the way around, and then after that we're going to work a strap that we're going to attach to the waistline so that you can draw the waist, and so that it's able to fit onto the waist. Because we worked with the hip measurements, then it means that we need to draw the waist with a drawstring. Coming to the end of that row of single crochets, and I'm just placing the last one in between the double crochets, then slip stitch onto the first single crochet that we did, and then we're going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn. So cut it off and pull the yarn through, then fasten, and now we are done. We're going to get a darning needle and weave in all the ends that are there on the pants, and then after that we work the drawstring. So let me show you how to work the drawstring. I've already done mine. So you need to double your strands. Get your yarn and double the strands, and then we're going to work the strap. So right here you have your two two yarns, working with them together. That is what we mean by doubling. Start with a slip stitch, then make a chain of 200 chains. So I'm just going to chain 200. I'm just illustrating. As you've seen, I've already done my chain, so you need to go up to the length of the chain that you want. And now after you're done with your chain or your strap, you're going to get the darning needle and put the chain through the needle. So right here, just put the chain through, and we're going to use the needle to connect the strap onto the waist. So just pull it like that. Get your pair of pants and make sure that you're working from the right side on the front part, in the exact middle part of the front part. Skip 2 double crochets and then put your needle through. Then, as you can see, I'm going through 3 stitches from the inside, 1 stitch from the outside, 3 stitches on the inside, 1 stitch on the outside, 3 on the, like, you can join the drawstring however you feel is okay for you. There's no formula for attaching the drawstring, provided you attach it. So let me go all the way around the pair of pants. Now that we have the strap in place, you can draw the waist to the length that you want and adjust it however you feel like adjusting, just like that. And so we're done with the pair of pants. I'm just going to weave in all the ends that are remaining, and then at the end of the chains, or at the end of the strap, I'll do a knot. Make sure that it is very close to the stitches, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Make a knot, a tight one, and make sure it's very close to the stitches, and then I'll get a pair of scissors and cut off the ends. Don't cut too close to the knot, then cut the other end, and from here we are done. The only thing that is remaining is to weave in the ends. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly leave a like, a comment, share. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? You need to subscribe and join the family. I'm thinking of converting these pants into a jumpsuit, but I'm not sure yet. Once I do, I'll upload a tutorial on this channel and I'll let you know. So leave a gift in the thanks button if you want to, and see you in the next one.